We are continuing our special coverage as we pay homage to former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh. At the moment, we are joined by someone who perhaps knows him best. We are joined by former Reserve Bank of India Governor Dr. C. Rangarajan. Dr. Rangarajan, thank you very much for joining us. You know, in a way, both of you are parents equally of India's liberalization of 1991. Can you narrate your interactions with Dr. Singh during those crucial moments of 1991-92, when you as Reserve Bank Deputy Governor and then Governor, and he as Finance Minister, had to take very big and crucial decisions?
Well, the various measures that we introduced at that time can be broken up into two parts. One is ensuring stability, and the other is introducing structural reforms which will prevent the occurrence of crisis of the type that we had in 1991. Obviously, stability is important because we need to have a stable economy before we can introduce the reforms, and therefore the twofold approach to the reforms is critically important. And I think the first year and a half was taken up much more in the area of stability. And we had to take a number of decisions, like the devaluation of the rupee, which was done in two installments, and it went through a period of a little bit of a crisis in the implementation of the decision itself. But I think the finance minister then was the Manmohan Singh, and I was the deputy governor at the time. We negotiated it in such a way that we did go through the two-stage implementation of the devaluation. I think there is a lot written about it, and that I ought to say that he stood by me because I was asked to implement the decision, and I did it. Of course, as far as the shipping of gold was concerned, which is also an important decision at that time, it was not the decision of Dr. Manmohan Singh, but it was the earlier decision.
Yes.
But he did not in any way come in the way of implementing that decision. And later on, when questions were asked in the parliament, he defended the of sending out the gold.
Sir, that's always a sign of maturity, isn't it? When subsequent governments cleanly pick up the baton from the previous government. Let me come to other issues. Both you and Dr. Manmohan Singh freed the banking system from Reserve Bank set lending rates and deposit rates, right? At that time, deposit and lending rates were set by the Reserve Bank. You all freed it and allowed banks to do it. You also, both of you, issued new banking license to private sector. Can you take us through the banking reform decisions?
The decision to implement the basic philosophy. The new philosophy that we introduced was that reduce the licenses and permits and controls, reorient the role of the state, and wherever possible, introduce competition so that the efficiency of the system will increase. So this is the basic philosophy, and we were trying to implement that basic philosophy in all the areas, and one of the areas was finance. And I would say that there is another thing to which you may come, that is the exchange rate management. But the point really is, as far as the banks were concerned, yes, the banks are judged for, as far as their efficiency is concerned, about allocative efficiency and operational efficiency. The nationalization of the commercial banks looked at the allocative efficiency. The reforms that we introduced in the early 1990s looked at operational efficiency. We said that if banks have to fulfill the tasks that they have been charged to do, then the banks should be able to implement efficiently their activities and make profits. I mean, I think making profit is not a bad idea. I mean, I think, therefore, that is what we did. And therefore, giving licenses to the new private sector banks is part of the idea of improving the competitive nature of the in the
Got it. Got it.
Therefore, I must say that the all of this required a lot of courage. I mean, I think he had not only vision but also courage.
Any personal exchanges, any jokes that you all shared, anything that you can recall at a personal level?
Yes, I mean, I think the wherever he saw logic, he was willing to do it, and he said, "Go ahead and do it." For example, when we dismantled all the interest rates, this is a problem because this also led to an increase in the borrowing rate of the government. But he has to look at, yes, the cost to the government goes up, but at the same time, it creates a government securities market and it creates a proper financial market in the country.
Yes.
And he thought of it and he said, yes, we must do it.
Okay.
And he gave all the support that was required. In the exchange rate also, the same thing was that for ourselves fixing the exchange rate every morning is not the most appropriate thing to do. I mean, we may, as I have said at one place, mimic the market and try to, but even then, I think to let the market determine the exchange rate is the appropriate thing. First, we said the dual exchange rate system, and then came the real problem, namely that people were of two views. That we increase the share rather than totally in terms of letting the market determine the exchange rate.
Yes.
And I remember the interesting conversation I had with him at that time. And we finally said that this slow movement is not appropriate. And what we need is to go and let the market determine the exchange rate. But also saying it very clearly that it does not prevent the intervention of the Reserve Bank of India in order to maintain stability. And that is the rule that we have continued to follow.
What about his second innings when he came back as Prime Minister? Any anecdotes you remember, any interactions you want to speak about?
Well, there are many in the sense, but they are all mostly economic in the sense that for example, even in the exchange market determination, there were others in the government who were saying that, no, let us not take the plunge and let us go slowly. Then finally, it came to us to determine, and the two of us finally decided that we should do it. And I think at the time of the bringing about some stability in the system, that is the first part of the work. I think we took. There are days on which he and I were in the office into the night. I mean, that never happens. I mean, I think that kind of thing. And therefore, when things have to be done, it did. And for example, at the end of the devaluation decision that we took, Dr. Manmohan Singh said that, look, as a result of this, perhaps I may gain because I have some dollars to come from whatever work that I have done. But I am willing, he said, to surrender the excess because of the decision. I think that is so forthright on his part to say that, yes, we take the decision from a national point of view. If I have gained, I will give it up. In fact, at that time, I told him that I am a loser because at that time I had some domestic problem and my son was involved in an accident and so on. So we had to send money from here to take care of him.
Yes.
But therefore, the whole point is look at the national point of view and do what is right, and what happens to the individual is the second. So I think that kind of an approach to the problem is something that one has to learn from him.
I wanted to ask you if you remember any anecdotes when you interacted as Prime Minister as well, not just as Finance Minister, but as Prime Minister. Any anecdotes?
Well, as Prime Minister, I was also involved because I was the chairman of the Economic Advisory Council to the Prime Minister. And I personally think the role of the Economic Advisory Council depends upon how much trust that the Prime Minister has in the Council and how much advice does he seek. I mean, I think advice, if it is to be critically important, should be taken seriously and acted upon. Therefore, I have many things on which we spent a lot of time to understand the problem. Therefore, there were very many issues that we talked about.
Okay. Well, Dr. Rangarajan, it's a pleasure to listen to all those events and two great minds like yourself and Dr. Manmohan Singh taking those big decisions that created the middle class in India, created deep markets in India, stock equity markets, debt markets, foreign exchange market, and of course, later on, the decisions to distribute it to a larger percentage of the population through the MNREGA, the Food Security Act, the UIDAI. Well, thank you very much, sir, for sharing those personal anecdotes as well.